Dear students, today let us start a new lesson, that is mechanical properties of solids. When it is a solid body, we immediately uh, believe that it is a rigid body. Actually, what is a rigid body? How we define a rigid body? Let us see. In our previous lessons, it came and we gave two definitions for that. One definition is a hard body having a definite shape and size is called a rigid body. Just simply pressing that, its shape or size cannot be changed. For example, a rubber ball is there. If you press, its shape changes, its volume changes. That cannot be a rigid body. A rigid body means a duster made of wood. Even though you press it, its shape doesn't change. So like that. Another definition we gave, the distance between any two particles in it remains constant. Like that we defined a rigid body. Now in practice, can we find a rigid body? That is a question put to you. Let us consider some examples. Now you look at this figure. Here a thin cylindrical body is taken having length L. If you apply stretching force on that, see, force on two ways, it is a pulling force. When you apply pulling force, its length increased by certain amount, delta L. If you apply compressive force, its length slightly decreases. Similarly, here a solid cylinder is there. Its lower face is fixed and you are applying some force on the upper face, and the force is parallel to the cross sectional area of the cylinder. Here actually you are applying force here. So when you applied force on the top surface to right hand side and the lower surface is fixed, then it has become like this. It has slightly bent to right hand side. You can observe its shape changed. Here it was a rectangle. Here it is a parallelogram. And here also the same thing. When you are applying force parallel to the surface, this rectangle shape goes into parallelogram shape. So what is happening here? So this is a rigid body, but when force is applied parallel to its cross-sectional area, its shape is changed. Here its size is changed. See, there is by pulling force, its length is increased. By compress force, its length is decreased. So there is a change in size. Here there is change in shape. Here you take a rubber ball, or here you take a rigid body only, not rubber ball. You put that inside water and you apply force by way of piston. Then a compressive force is applied on the body from all sides and perpendicular to the surface everywhere. So slightly its volume decreases. See, the solid line is previous volume and the dotted line shows its boundary after compression. So its volume slightly decreased. So now you tell me, see, all these are solid bodies, all these are rigid bodies, but when a force is applied, there is either a change in its size or there is change in its shape. So when its size or shape is changed, you can't say it is a rigid body. So ultimately, finally you say you can't find a rigid body in practice. Solid bodies are not perfectly rigid. Next, deformation. The phenomenon of change in shape or size of a body under the action of force is called deformation. Next, deforming force. The force applied to produce a change in size or shape is called deforming force. Next, restoring force. A force which is developed inside a body in a direction opposite to deforming force. See, to understand restoring force, let us take an example. See, in previous lessons we considered you have taken a spring. So here to its first end is upper end is fixed to a support and lower end is here free. But when you attach a mass to its lower end, the spring stretches by some amount. See, the spring stretches by some amount. Its length increases. See here, why its length increased? See, on this mass, gravitational force is working. And because of the gravitational force, its length has increased. It has undergone certain amount of deformation. Here, deformation is increase in length. And the gravitational force here, it is called as a deforming force. And immediately inside the spring another force is developed and that is called restoring force, and that restoring force is given by the Hooke's law, restoring force. If you remove the mass here, immediately the spring regains its original shape. So who is responsible for that? The restoring force. The restoring force brings the spring to its initial position, brings back to its, it regains its original shape. So in this way, now the restoring, see here the deforming force and restoring force, both are equal in magnitude but opposite in direction. Deforming force is here working vertically downwards and the restoring force is working vertically upwards. Always, so the deforming force and restoring force are equal in magnitude and opposite in direction. So here, so you need not, but now we are discussing about, our lesson is on mechanical properties of solids. And here not only spring, see the spring is taken, see from the spring you can easily understand, but you don't require a spring. You can take a steel wire. You can take a steel wire. From a rigid support, you suspend a steel wire of 1 meter length. Okay. To this you attach a pan. 1 meter means 100 centimeters or 1000 millimeters. Okay, so in this see now in this pan you put a 1 kg mass. You take 1 kg mass, m is equal to 1 kg. So on this the gravitational force mg, that is 1 kg into g value, let us take 10 meter per second square. So we get 10 newtons. So you have you are applying 10 newtons of stretching force on the wire. So now if you measure, now after applying this force, now once again you measure the length. This time the length is not L but L plus delta L, that is 1000 plus 1 mm. Its length will be increased by 1 millimeter. 1 millimeter. So this force, this gravitational force can be called here as deforming force. Why? Because this force increases its length. The increase in length is itself a deformation. And if you remove the mass, 1 kg mass, if you remove the 1 kg mass from the pan, again the wire regain its original length. It will go back to its 1000 mm. If you remove the mass, it will go back to its 1000 mm. How it can go to its initial length? Because of restoring force. Because of restoring force. Like this. Now, our next topic is elasticity. See, here it was initially having a length of 1000 mm. When you applied 1 kg mass, its length increased to 1001 mm. When you removed the mass, it came back to its original length. So now you can say the steel wire is elastic. This is a steel wire. It has, when the deforming force is removed, it regained its original length. It means the steel wire is elastic, and its property is called elasticity. Not only a rubber band, a steel wire is also elastic. See, now let us look at the definition. The property of a body by virtue of which it tends to regain its original size and shape when the applied force is removed is known as elasticity, and the deformation is called elastic deformation. Example for elasticity: rubber band, steel wire, quartz fiber. See, this quartz fiber, in the previous gravitation lesson we used the quartz fiber to measure capital G value in the Cavendish experiment. To this quartz fiber we attached a mirror, and when the to the bar, here a small lead sphere was there, and when you so it was suspended by a quartz fiber. Here a mirror was there, and when you kept a large lead sphere like this large lead sphere attracted this. So the quartz fiber has undergone a deflection. So when you remove the large spheres, again it comes back. So in this way the quartz fiber is elastic. Next, plasticity. Plasticity is the property of a body by virtue of which it remains in the deformed state even after the deforming force is removed. Example: clay, wax, wheat, duff. See these, when you apply force, it deforms. Suppose a round wheat duff is there. You have prepared a wheat duff in the round shape. On that you keep a 5 kg weight. It becomes like this. So it has deformed. If you remove the mass, if you remove the weight, it doesn't come back to its original shape. This property is plasticity. Now, importance of the lesson. See why we are studying the mechanical properties of solids. What is the use? What is the application? See, elastic behavior of materials plays an important role in engineering design. For example, while designing a building, while designing a bridge, or while designing automobiles, the elastic behavior of materials is necessary. See, to construct a building, you want concrete. Concrete is a mixture of cement and sand and stone pieces. And you need steel. You need steel also, steel rods. While constructing beams or pillars, you need these things. And while constructing a building, the constructor asks whether you are going to construct a building of just ground floor or one floor or two floors or three floors, like why he asks, if you prefer two-story building or three-story building, he goes for a steel of different properties, different nature, to stand the weight of the stories. He chooses a strong steel. So in this way, the elastic behavior of concrete and steel to be studied, either to construct a building or a bridge, or to lay railway track, or to construct automobiles. See, you know very well, the aeroplane flies in the air, and to fly in the air, its weight must be less, but it must be strong. So, how to go for a material which is lightweight and at the same time strong enough? And say artificial limbs. So DRDO is preparing artificial limbs which should be lightweight and strong enough. And say the glass is brittle, brass is ductile. So what makes it brittle? What makes it ductile? That we should know. How loads deform different solid bodies. So we will be discussing all these things in this lesson. Our next topic 10.2 is elastic behavior of solids. Just now we have seen here. By applying force. Here length changed, here volume changed, here shape changed. So this is elastic behavior. So how the length is changing, how the volume is changing, how the shape is changing inside the solid body, actually what is happening, how to understand the deformation. For that, a simple theory is proposed, and that model is spring ball model for the illustration of elastic behavior of solids. Inside a solid, either atoms will be there or molecules will be there, and the balls represent the atoms. Suppose you have taken a steel body, so inside the steel body, these are the steel atoms, the iron atoms. See, now these are between two atoms there will be interatomic force, or suppose this is a molecule and this is a molecule. Between two molecules there will be intermolecular force. So when you apply force, suppose you are applying force on the solid, so here what he says, you take a ball and pull it, so immediately its length increases. Leave it, it regains its shape. So when you are applying force, when a solid is deformed, the atoms or molecules are displaced from their equilibrium positions, causing a change in the interatomic distance. When you apply force, the distance between the atoms changes. When the deforming force is removed, the interatomic forces tend to drive them back to their original position. Thus, the body regains its original shape and size. So, in this way, by spring ball model, the elastic behavior of solids is described. Now, let us go for third topic, and that is stress and strain. Now you look at the cylinder which is having length L. When you apply stretching force like this, when you apply stretching force, its length is increasing. See, initially it is like this, having length L, having length L. See, if you apply force like this, if you apply force like this, what happens? Its length increases. Its length increases. Now its length is L plus delta L. L plus delta L. Okay, now you are applying force perpendicular to the cross sectional area. You are applying force perpendicular to the cross sectional area. So on A area, on area A, the force applied is F. On unit area, how much force is applied? 1 by A into F, that is F by A. So this is called stress. This is called stress. So stress is defined as, called as, first let me write, deforming force by cross-sectional area. Deforming force by cross-sectional area. But when you remove the force, it again comes, when you remove the force, it comes back to its original length. Therefore, you can write here, instead of deforming force, you can also write here restoring force by cross-sectional area. Cross-sectional area. Because deforming force and restoring force are equal in magnitude and opposite in direction. So we define stress like this. So this is one example. This is one example. And in this example, the deforming force is changing its length. Changing its length. Therefore, such type of stress is called longitudinal stress. So, longitudinal stress is equal to restoring force by cross-sectional area F by A. Now let us take a cylinder shaped body. Now you apply force like this. This is compressive force. This is compressive force. You are compressing. Its initial length is L. So if you apply force like this, its length decreases. Its length decreases. Its length decreases to L minus delta L. L minus delta L. See here again the deformation is along length. So this is also longitudinal stress. So stress is nothing but force per unit area. Force per unit area is called stress. So whether by applying force, if there is change in length, whether by pulling force its length increases, by compressive force its length decreases, in both cases the force is applied along the length. Therefore, this stress is called longitudinal stress. Longitudinal stress. And it has got another name also. In both cases, the force is applied perpendicular to the cross-sectional area. Perpendicular to the cross-sectional area. Therefore, this stress is also called normal stress. Normal stress. Okay. Now you defined the longitudinal stress and you gave an equation also. Force by cross-sectional area gives longitudinal stress here. Now let us consider strain. By applying force, what is happening? Its length is changed. Now let us consider the change in length. The strain is defined as, see here, stress is defined as restoring force by area. Restoring force by area. But here what is happening? By applying force, there is change in length. Now strain. it has undergone some strain. Now we want to measure its strain. So strain is defined as a change in length by original length change in length by original length. Change in length is delta L, original length is L. So then this strain is called longitudinal strain. Longitudinal strain, because there is change in length. This is longitudinal stress, this is longitudinal strain. Longitudinal stress means force by cross sectional area. Longitudinal strain means change in length by original length. So this is one type. Now let us go for second type. You look at this figure. Here this is a cylinder having certain amount of cross sectional area A, and its length is L. Now here you are applying force, but you are applying force parallel to its cross sectional area, here and here. Here the force applied was perpendicular to the cross sectional area, but here the force is applied parallel to the surface area. When you apply force, you have taken a cylinder like this. Here the bottom face is fixed, it is fixed, and you are applying force here. Then what happens? So its upper face is displaced by some amount. By what amount it is displaced? That is delta L. Or here in this figure, the displacement is shown by delta X. And length of the cylinder is L. Length of cylinder is S. So here the force is applied parallel to the cross sectional area. Now here we want to define stress. Here it was longitudinal stress. This was longitudinal stress. By applying force, here length changed. That's why we say this stress is longitudinal stress. Then here by applying force, its length did not change. Only its shape is changed. Therefore, here the stress is called shear stress. Here the stress is called shear stress or tangential stress. Why tangential stress? Suppose here the force applied is parallel to the cross sectional area. The force is a tangent to the surface. That's why the stress is called tangential stress. Then how it is measured? The tangential stress is measured as tangential force by cross-sectional area. Tangential force by cross-sectional area. F by A. Here this area is A. This area is A. Here and here. In both cases the area is same. So tangential force by cross-sectional area gives you shear stress or tangential stress. Okay. Now stress is over. Now let us go for strain. Stress causes strain in the body. Now let us go for strain. Shear stress causes shear strain. Shear strain. Here longitudinal stress caused longitudinal strain. Here see here shear stress causes shear strain. Now you want to measure the shear strain. The shear strain is measured as displacement by height of the cylinder or length of the cylinder. But see, this is a right angle triangle, and here if you take an angle theta here, now if you take tan theta is equal to opposite side by adjacent size. So you can define shear strain as tan theta also, because tan theta gives you delta x by L. And generally the angle theta is very small, because this is a rigid body. If you apply force, you can't find this much displacement. Suppose this is made of steel or copper, this is a copper or steel cylinder. If you apply force this much compared to lower face, the upper face is not displaced by this much amount. Just in the figure we have shown to understand, but the displacement will be very small. Therefore the angle will be very small, and when the angle is very small, tan theta is equal to theta. Therefore shear strain is shown by just theta. Shear strain is just shown by theta or delta x by L. So in this way we define the shear strain. Now see here, now let us compare longitudinal stress and shear stress. In what way they are different? Here the force, the deforming force is perpendicular to the surface. Here the deforming force is parallel to the surface. That is the difference here. Here there is the longitudinal stress is causing change in its length. Here the shear stress is causing change in its shape. Similarly, here force is parallel to the its face, its area. Therefore you say this is shear stress. You can't say this is normal stress. When force is perpendicular to the area, here the force is perpendicular to the area. Therefore here we called it this as normal stress. But here this is not normal stress. This is shear stress, because force is parallel to the area. Now let us go for another type. See here, you have taken a rigid body, you kept inside water, and you applied some force like this. Suppose, let me draw the figure. So this is water, a fluid. So inside the fluid there is a round body, suppose. Round body is there. If you apply force here, this so if you apply force like this, the force is applied uniformly on the entire surface area of the body, and at each point the force applied is perpendicular. Anywhere it is perpendicular. At any point the force applied will be perpendicular. Therefore the stress undergoes will be called as normal stress. It is a type of normal stress. But under the application of the force, what is going to happen here? Its volume decreases. It is compressed. So its volume decreases. Therefore, the stress is causing in decreasing of volume. Therefore, such stress is called hydraulic stress. See, in your lower classes this hydraulic term came. See, if you take a large amount of cotton and you apply compressing force on it so that its volume gets decreased. So in making use of hydraulic machines, they compress and they decrease its volume. So in this way, here by applying force, its volume is getting decreased. Therefore the stress is called as hydraulic stress. Okay, and also this is a normal stress because at each point the force applied is perpendicular to the area. Okay, then what is the formula here? Here also the formula is same, force by area. So the formula is common whether it is longitudinal stress, whether it is a shear stress, or whether it is a hydraulic stress. The formula is same, force by area. So you can give a common definition to the stress. It is nothing but a restoring force per unit area is called stress. A deforming force per unit area is called stress. Force per unit area, that's all. Force by area gives stress. Okay. Now, by applying hydraulic stress, what change is occurring in the body? Its volume is decreasing. That is strain. So here now we have to define strain, and that is called as hydraulic strain. Or you can say volume strain, because its volume is changing. Therefore you can say volume strain. So here we define this as change in volume by original volume. So we write this as delta V by V. delta V by V. And we put here minus sign here. Why minus sign means by applying hydraulic stress, its volume is getting decreased. So this minus sign suggests that decrease in volume. Decrease in volume. Okay. So now here we give another name also. Here hydraulic stress is defined by force by area. No? So here we give another name for hydraulic stress, and that is pressure. Pressure is defined as force by area. So we give here another name, that is pressure. Hydraulic stress or pressure. And here hydraulic strain or volume strain. That means, see here you are having 3 types of stresses and 3 types of strains. Longitudinal stress. See again here the longitudinal stress can be 2 types. See here you are applying stretching force, thereby its length is increased. So such type of stress also can be called tensile stress. Here this stress is called tensile stress. Tensile stress. Why tensile? Here its length is increased. Here you see, you are applying a compressive force. From both sides you are pushing, thereby its length decreased. And such stress is called as compressive stress. Compressive stress. Since its length is increased, it is called tensile stress. Since its length is decreased, it is called compressive stress. Whether it is increase in length or decreasing in length. So there is change along length. Therefore, the stress is called longitudinal stress. Okay. So here all this is taken as longitudinal stress because there is change in length. Now when you go for a second type and the corresponding strain is called a longitudinal strain, that is change in length by original length. Okay. Now let us go for second type of stress. Here there is no change in length, there is no change in volume, there is only change in shape. Therefore this stress is called shear stress. Actually the name shear is why given means here the force is applied parallel to the area. That's why the name shear stress is given. And the force is along the tangents to the surface. That's why another name is given, tangential stress. Tangential stress. Okay. Now force by area. Tangential force by cross-sectional area gives you the shear stress. Okay. Now such a type of force is causing a change in its shape, and that is also measuring. We are measuring the change in shape scientifically by measuring the displacement in the upper face compared to the lower face. See, the lower face is fixed and you are applying force on the top face. So by how much amount the top face is displaced, that is delta x. And the height of the cylinder is L. So how you are measuring its strain? The shear strain is first measured as its displacement by length, delta x by L. This is the fundamental definition. displacement of its upper face divided by the length of the cylinder, delta x by L, and that is nothing but tan theta. But theta is very small for a rigid body, therefore tan theta is equal to theta. So shear strain can be represented either by theta or delta x by L. Okay, now you go for a third type of stress in which its here by applying force its volume is changing. Therefore, such type of stress is called as hydraulic stress or pressure. And this is normal stress because everywhere the force is at 90 degrees to the surface. Okay, and the hydraulic stress is causing hydraulic strain or change in its volume. That's why this also called as volume strain, and this is defined as change in volume by original volume minus delta V by V. Now let us consider SI unit for stress and strain. First let us consider longitudinal stress, force by area. See, force is measured in newtons, area is measured in meters square. So for stress the SI unit is Newton by meter square. Now let us go for shear stress. Here also you have tangential force by cross section area, force by area, Newton by meter square. Now let us go for hydraulic stress, force by area, Newton by meter square. So whatever type of stress it is, the SI unit is common, Newton by meter square. Now let us go for the strain, longitudinal strain, change in length by original length. Here change in length is measured in meters. Original length is also measured in meters. Meter by meter gets cancelled. So there is no unit. The longitudinal strain is dimensionless. It has no dimensions. It has no unit. Now let us consider shear strain. Here displacement of face by length of the cylinder. The displacement is measured in meters and length of the cylinder is measured in meters. Meter gets cancelled. Therefore shear strain has no units. Now let us go for hydraulic strain or volume strain, change in volume by original volume. See, change in volume is measured in meter cube, volume is measured in meter cube gets cancelled. So volume strain has no units. So in this way strain has no units. Stress is having Newton per meter square and strain is having no units. Now let us go for the dimensional formula. First let us look at the stress. Stress is nothing but restoring force by cross-sectional area. For force, dimensional formula is ml t power minus 2. And here area, meter square means L square. So here one length gets cancelled. So that you get m L power minus 1 t power minus 2. So for any type of stress you have common dimensional formula, that is m L power minus 1 t power minus 2. Now coming to the strain. See, here length, L gets cancelled. So here for strain m power 0, L power 0, t power 0. Here also the same thing, displacement by original length. This is L, L gets cancelled. So m power 0, L power 0, T power 0. Here, change in volume by origin. For volume, what is the dimension formula? L cube. Here, original volume L cube. L cube gets cancelled. M power 0, L power 0, T power 0. So in this way, see, the strain is dimensionless. Strain is dimensionless.